Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar entitled Showing Love, Resident Engagement and Appreciation from COVID-19 and Beyond. It is being sponsored by the National Apartment Association's Operations Subcommittee on COVID-19 and Beyond. My name is James Campbell, and I'm the Senior Manager of Industry Relations with NAA. I want to welcome all of our members in attendance. Thank you for joining us for this important topic. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping points. This presentation is being recorded and will be posted to our website and YouTube channel next week. You may then share this presentation with those colleagues and friends who are unable to attend at present. Also, we have a lot of time at the end for live questions and answers. You may type your questions into the Q&A and chat boxes on your screen, and we will share them with our presenters. Now, I'm pleased to turn the presentation over to our host, Leigh Rogers. Leigh is Regional Vice President with JMG Realty, Inc., based in Orlando, where she's worked for nearly 3 decades. She also chairs our Operations Subcommittee on COVID-19 and Beyond, and is a member of the Apartment Association of Greater Orlando. Leigh?
Well, thank you, James, and welcome to our webinar. Today, we are very pleased to have 3 senior practitioners present what they and their organizations have been doing in the areas of resident engagement and appreciation, both during the pandemic as well as into the present. Aaron Mass is Vice President of Multifamily Operations with Origin Investments based in Atlanta. Christina Roesberg is Marketing Director with PB Bell based in Phoenix. And my dear friend, mentor, and colleague, Bonnie B. Smetzer, is Partner and Executive Vice President at JMG Realty, Inc., based in the greater Melbourne area of Florida. Thank you all for joining us. Allow me to begin with Aaron. Aaron is Vice President of Multifamily Operations at Origin Investments. He's responsible for driving performance in the company's multifamily portfolio. Aaron oversees the strategy and execution of property-level business plans. Before Origin Investments, Aaron held positions at Steadfast Management Company, Avila Real Estate, and Marion Realty Partners. He studied at Emory University. Aaron is a member of the Atlanta Apartment Association, a certified portfolio supervisor, and a certified apartment manager. Welcome, Aaron.
Thanks, Leigh. And I wanted to start out by thanking NAA for their continued support and the dialogue throughout the years, and especially in light of recent events. Now, it makes sense to start in the beginning, but I think we're all probably a little fatigued from 2020 and remember it well enough, so I can skip that play-by-play. But there were a few things that I wanted to highlight for myself and remember should we get caught in another challenging time. Some of the things we're proud of is how well we were able to act fast. I saw our teams flip the switch on new software and systems and change or redefine associate roles overnight. Those fast adjustments allowed us to maintain the operations and the communication in that environment that was flipped on its head, right? We locked our doors, we closed our doors, we turned our lights off, and everybody had questions. And we were able to continue to communicate and have our employees have that communication with each other and with our residents with that flexibility. Now, we won't always be ahead of everything when change is needed and if it's not apparent. So one of the things we decided is that we didn't want to wait. And with that, it meant that we needed to prepare our associates to work from home, ordering PPE, and simply communicating to the community that change is in the air. What we learned was it's okay to be imperfect, but you have to be there. And that goes in hand with being fast and flexible. And lastly on that, a popular leader and communicator in my community spoke on leadership, great or otherwise, that leaders carry a huge burden of communicating perfectly, so much that it often creates a gap or a lack of communication between messages. And we cannot wait to be perfect during a crisis. So we're going to get out the information that we know, and we're going to allow room for feedback on that which we don't. Next slide, Leigh. So here's kind of the takeaway, right? I'm leaving this out. I'm leaving 2020 behind me. And these are the reminders that I have in my playbook. Frequent communication is key, perfect or imperfect. Adapting to change is not just our residents, it's our employees, associates, and the way we do business. And lastly, all of our goals should be to bring our community together and to lead and to follow. Next slide. Celebrating the wins was really important, right? We were looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. And last year we had the opportunity to highlight our great residents with signage, special events like toasting our healthcare workers, or having a place for residents to write nice notes to their neighbors. Moving forward, we're going to continue this trend. Next up, we'll celebrate our teachers and then our local community teams and charity initiatives. One example is the self-care basket. What we found is it really hit the spot for the resident and for the creator, right? To stop and just take a breath of air. Next slide. So we recognize the need for in-home services as our amenities. We all experience the world around us shut down, including the things that were right down the hall. There are so many things to do online, and we wanted to give that access to our residents. So we purchased them an annual subscription for streaming music, video, education, fitness, and more. Now, additionally, and this is what we'll maintain moving forward, there was a serious strain on the communications infrastructure. And we were quick in many places to update the internet devices. And moving forward, we're going to maintain a preventative maintenance structure with our IT departments to keep this internet service running wide open. Next slide. Virtual amenities. This is a surprise to me, but they were a hit. And I have to say it was our teams on site that embraced this, got a hold of it, and fostered these ideas or clubs for our residents. And let me tell you, literally in the sense of the Run Club, the residents ran with it. We were surprised by how little initiation was needed as people were craving community. And so now it's in our playbook to create these opportunities for people and connect in the digital age. We even had one community challenge each other to laps around the building to see who could improve their time the most. And at one point we had residents going outside and running around the building 3 or 4 times a day. Maybe we just needed that breath of fresh air as we were all on our Zoom calls from 8 to 8. But I mean, what did we do next? Well, now we're creating Run Club shirts that they proudly wear to their 5K then Hydrate events every week. Next slide. So meal services, food delivery. Historically, you've got a partnership with one pizza joint that offers specials to the building, but we reached out and created special partnerships with discounts and services focused just on our community. This was a huge hit. It benefited both our residents and the local business or the economy. And having the same drivers with that comfort around our building and the navigation created a faster, better, more efficient service, not just for them and their takeout business, but also for our resident experience. Restaurant bingo. So imagine a bingo card with different restaurants. If you get a line through any, we give you a gift card or we celebrate with a gift. Our residents were ordering delivery and takeout. They dine locally, but we also helped our residents, and we allowed associates into the game as well, to move out of their normal routine and try new things. The best way to retain residents is to give them these reminders on how great it is to live in our community. So we don't want them to miss a neighborhood highlight just because they're stuck in a routine, as so many of us are. Next slide. This is going back to that kind of virtual amenity. I can't express how awesome our teams were at adapting their community events to online events. We hosted online movie night, trivia games, concerts, book clubs, etc. Now, this was not just a resident touch point or an event, but a way for the residents to display their talents and leadership amongst themselves. We were surprised by how many residents wanted to play music or teach an art class or lead a club in a virtual environment. And so now this has taken off, of course, into our club rooms, but now we'll always have the structure to continue whether our doors are open or not. Next slide. Moving forward, we're going to continue more of the same. It was a pretty huge adjustment, and it seemed to happen overnight. We had self-guided tours, right? We had digital touch points. We were moving to FaceTime instead of walking down the hallway to start showing the unit, walking a make ready. But our teams learned quickly and they executed efficiently. The things we'll continue to foster is going to include paperless everything. Our engineers are not rounding back to the office to close out or receive a work order. make-ready units are reported back with a picture dumped to a SharePoint file, and the entire leasing process can be completed by computer or phone anywhere in the world. And lastly, as reflected in the images previously, social media remains a great place for communication. You can advertise events and celebrate both our residents and especially our teams. I want to thank all the great managers that we're partnered with and to NAA for their support. Back to you, Leigh.
Well, thank you, Aaron, for those terrific examples. Our next presenter is Christina Rosenberg. Christina is Marketing Director at PB Bell. She's responsible for overseeing corporate marketing initiatives and communications, as well as strategic marketing planning for the PB Bell portfolio. Prior to PB Bell, Christina was the Senior Marketing Director at Vestar, while holding marketing positions for other real estate organizations. She holds a bachelor's degree from Maryville University. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you, Leigh. Thanks for having me. And thank you also to NAA for inviting me to be on this panel. I feel very honored to be a part of this. And again, as Aaron mentioned, I think we're all, well aware of what 2020 held for us. But really, when we step back and think about it, when this first happened, it was all about getting back to the basics. Think about the idea of meeting residents' fundamental expectations of feeling safe, secure, and valued. And meeting those expectations meant exceptional customer service and communication, and resident events, of course, played a vital role in this. Next slide, please. So during COVID, our teams had to get creative, which is one of PB Bell's core values, and they had to think quick and fast and come up with new ways of doing things. They turned their creativity around and did popular events, but they had to do virtual ones. So creating bingo parties, virtual painting nights, movie nights into Netflix parties. We had rock painting to leave those around the community and leave inspirational messages, chalk art around the communities, anything you could think of that was quick, fun, and easy to do during these times. Next slide, please. So social distancing has highlighted the importance of utilizing social media in these unique ways to help keep residents involved and informed in a responsible and safe way. So at the very beginning of this, we really wanted to make sure that our residents felt safe, secure, and connected to people, and especially to our office. So we did a picture of our different community members, just saying that we're in this together, like we're here for you, you're not alone. And then we also did a fun quarantine contest on social, where take a picture of what you're doing. Are you playing outside with your kids? Are you trying to work with your kids or dogs? Or, what are you doing? And then giving a rent credit, when they post that on social and have that interaction. This one was kind of fun. Pick your quarantine apartment. Would you want to live in, a high-rise apartment, or do you want to, dream about a beach, apartment, where you're overlooking an ocean, and kind of feeling that, feeling those vibes. And then another way too is also to communicate updates. So when our pools and fitness centers reopened, it was a great way to communicate to our residents that these things are reopening. It's fun and an exciting way as well. Next slide. Giveaways and contests. So social media is a great platform to do giveaways and contests, and it's effective, obviously, to meet those social distancing guidelines and also boost resident engagement. So we did things like pet photo contests. We know that pets are like family to most of us. And so, getting them to take a picture of their pet and post that on Facebook, or even just send an email and then give them a rent credit for that, and start that engagement on social. Another one that was popular for both Halloween and during the holiday time are the door decorating contests. And these actually happen or pre-COVID, but these are really popular once we weren't able to have those in-person events, but we could still show, show our creativity and have people decorate their doors and their holiday spirit. Another one was a contest for the best turkey leftover recipes, which is super easy one for social and got some engagement and get people sharing some kind of, family traditions. And then movie basket giveaways. I mean, this was something that we did multiple times throughout the pandemic with different baskets and giveaways, really again for that engagement, but also people needed stuff during that time. So sometimes there were supplies or food items that were in need. So that was a fun one. Of course, everybody loves free stuff. Next slide. Door deliveries. So this was one that was really fun. Goodie bags that can, be a brief note about upcoming events, as well as treats that fit the theme of your event, or it can simply just be a fun treat to say thank you for being at our community. So there's a picture of our team at Paradise at P83, and they left behind Valentine chocolates to all the residents at their door. During resident appreciation, we just left little treats and candies on their door, and just something kind of fun to come home to. Or if you're working from home, you open your door and there's a little surprise, and just kind of feeling that love at your community. Next slide. COVID and beyond. So as we navigate to our new normal, we wanted to make sure that we include a variety of virtual events, giveaways, and contests, as well as in-person events. And also keeping in mind that, during our reopening, that a lot of people haven't seen our staff in a long time. So a lot of our communities hosted kind of welcome back events to really meet the staff, because there could have been staff changes, or even if there weren't staff changes, just to meet people in person again and put that face and that name together. I thought this one was cute. Our team at Leigh were so flippin' excited to be open. They did pancake kits that people could come and pick up in the office and take back to their apartments with them. Next slide, please. So during trying to figure out what events work, we utilized SurveyMonkey to survey our residents to really figure out what days and times work best for our residents, but also what kind of events that they're looking for, because there isn't a one size fits all that, we can do these events and it'll work for all of our different communities. So we want to find out what's going to work for that community. And of course, we can't make everybody happy, but at least we can, listen and see what they're saying. So whether it's breakfast to go, or if they're painting parties, wine nights, we can really hear from our residents and see what they're looking for. So some just quick examples of donuts and coffee. There was a painting one. This is a bouquet making station, which was kind of fun for Mother's Day. And then something simple, just popsicles by the pool. Next one. Food trucks. So this was something we did before COVID, during COVID, and after. So just partnering with those local restaurants to bring in food trucks. And this small gesture makes a big difference in the eyes of the residents, and has proven to be valuable for these small businesses as well. Many of our communities are doing this on a monthly basis, sometimes bi-monthly or even weekly, depending on the success of these trucks. And then the residents come to expect and, see these and just have to walk out their door to get a sweet treat or maybe a meal. And then obviously bringing in those local vendors really helps show that support in times of need when they need it the most. Next slide. Giving back. So this is probably one of the most important things during this time, is these donation drives and charity events. Obviously, it's a great way to engage our residents, but also making an impact on the local community. So last year we did a sock drive. We found out that was one of the most needed items in the community, and so that was our focus, and really just focusing on socks. So all of our communities were gathering socks, as well as our corporate office, and really at the end of the day, making a big impact by donating a bunch of socks. But we've done the back to school drives, and of course, toiletry drives and canned food, and really trying to figure out what's needed in that particular community, and trying to help give back however we can. Next one, please. And then lastly, Resident Appreciation Week. So I think having an entire week dedicated to our residents has been so beneficial to really spend an entire week showing how much we care, because we would all not have jobs if we didn't have our residents. So making sure they feel truly loved, especially during this week. So each day we would have a different theme or different activity. This particular time, one of the days was a popcorn bar, so they could stop by and just pick up a bag of popcorn, and there was different toppings and items they could add to that. There was a craft making station to make Valentine's, because this is also during Valentine's week, for kids to make either their own Valentines. There was other stuff for adults to make Valentines and flowers, and then also sweet treats and messages along the way. And I go to the next slide. I think that's it. I think I just put some more photos of other events, but overall, I think it just taught us in general with COVID and beyond to get back to the basics, understand that people want to be communicated with, they want to feel compassion, and know that we care and that we are there for them, and to be flexible on how we do things, that and there's not a one size fits all. So I will put that back to you, Leigh, and I appreciate you having me.
Well, thank you very much, Christina. Great slides and great ideas. So our next presenter is my dear friend, mentor, and colleague, Bonnie Smetzer. Bonnie is partner and executive vice president at JMG Realty. She's responsible for operations in Florida, which encompasses a portfolio of approximately 10,000 apartments. Bonnie has done it all at JMG, including market feasibility studies, acquisitions, renovations, new development, new construction, lease up, and stabilization of properties ranging from garden style, mixed use, mixed income, and mid to high rise properties. Bonnie is the immediate past president of the Florida Apartment Association and serves on the NAA's board of directors as regional vice president for Region 9. She advocates for our industry on the local, state, and national levels. Bonnie was actually just awarded the National Apartment Association 2020 Advocacy 365 Advocate of the Year Award. Her properties in her portfolio have won numerous awards, including 2 Pillars of the Industry Award, a Pillars finalist recognition for the overall marketing plan of the year, and outstanding renovation of the year. Welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you so much, Leigh. Next slide, please. And you can go ahead and advance that slide too, please. Thank you all, and I'm so happy to be here today. During our quarantine, when our residents were so isolated, nothing was more important than engaging with them and really creating a sense of community. We found that consistent communication became so important. For example, our Facebook, Instagram, and other social channels, as well as our property management resources for messaging our residents, had to be used almost daily to share information and updates. At JMG, we manage a variety of property types, from luxury, student, senior, and affordable. And with this diverse range of properties and residents, it was so important to tailor our message. During this time, we knew that our seniors were suffering because they couldn't engage with family and friends. Our student housing properties, the students were at home doing classes remotely. And we knew that our residents in our communities were working either a lot of hours remotely in their apartments, staying home a lot. Some we knew had their hours cut, some had been laid off. And so it was important to us to connect on a level that could really engage with our residents. So that really created a challenge. Next slide, please. As you can imagine, with this diverse group of residents, we typically never use a one-size-fits-all approach. Our on-site teams are highly creative and they know their residents best. So we adopted a celebrate every day mindset. So during the pandemic, we continued celebrating, but we added a twist. We celebrated the everyday holidays as well as obscure holidays as a way to engage with our residents and take their mind off the bad news that was bombarding them every day. Our belief is that the basics never go out of style and are the foundation to our success. But during the quarantine, we had to focus on the delivery more than ever before. So it's always important to have positive communications, but that was never more important than during COVID. So some examples here are when we did our National Movie Day and we shared, here are some of our favorite things on Netflix right now. And we coordinated that with delivering popcorn to the residents. And so we continued with those resident appreciation events. We did Wellness Wednesday, we did resident frontline appreciation. Everything we did was a way to connect with our residents and make them know how much we appreciated them. Next slide, please. So we know that our ideas are endless, and the key to a great program is consistency, promotion, and communication. Communication is always important, but it was especially important during heightened times of screen times. We knew our residents were staying on the internet during the day if they were working with home, and so we knew that the message mattered. So it was important for us to have a great message, and we believe if you've got a great one, you should let the world see it. So during the pandemic, as we were trying to be more creative, we also provided resources for our residents as a way for them to find help if they needed it. And because we have such a diverse portfolio, we tailored that message and some of the things that we did for our residents to the actual property and area. Next slide, please. So when engaging with our residents on quarantine activities, we did some of the following here for examples. We did socially distant outdoor concerts, which were very popular with the residents. We gave instructions early on about how to make your own mask, because if you recall, during the pandemic early on, it was very hard to find masks. So we gave residents a way and instructions on how to make their own mask. We also did virtual scavenger hunts, which were very popular with residents. We also, in some areas, provided lists of companies that were hiring for remote work and jobs during the pandemic. We offered fun game and movie recommendations. We gave the location of emergency supplies, and we offered some properties as pickup points. And we also partnered with a local community to provide resources to our residents. We partnered with restaurants to be sure that our residents had discounts and would be able to get deliveries. And for some of our senior and affordable communities, we worked with the ownership and local charities who donated food to our communities, and our staff delivered it. Once vaccines were available, we sponsored vaccine clinics for our senior communities because the seniors were most in need of those early vaccines, and they were the ones with limited transportation. So it was so popular with the residents, and we put it out on social media to be able to offer those valuable vaccines to them in their own apartment community. We certainly ran the content and everything we were doing on different social channels, Facebook and Instagram primarily. Obviously, we pushed it out on our property management communication system. And we also posted flyers on residents' doors. And then we also leveraged our community relationship manager software that helped us with our prospect follow-up during chaotic times. Next slide, please. JMG is a service-first company, and we always try to instill that mindset with our properties. Home was never more important, and how fortunate we are to work in people's homes. Our goal is to always be better, to be different. We monitor our competitors, but we realize we're our own competition. And so we strive to be the best every day. So during COVID, we knew our residents were experiencing a lot of uncertainty, and we wanted to provide a great home with superior service and outstanding communication. It's one thing to manage a community, but it's another to create and foster a community And a big part of that is effective communication. So when we first closed our offices, we made sure to get the message right. We didn't say we're closed. We said we're limiting the office to employees only, but we were there to service our residents. And that went a long way to making our residents feel reassured. We all remember the bad press property management companies were getting during the hardest part of the lockdown of the pandemic. And we try very hard to buck that trend. Next slide, please. Serving our residents. Here are some examples of some of the things we did for our residents during the worst part of the pandemic and continue to do today, even as we're opening up. Obviously, free meal distribution for some of our residents, delivering free pizzas to the doors of residents that were paid for by the ownership of the property. And we also use social media to introduce our newest team members and to welcome them to the community since nobody could meet them in person. Next slide, please. One example of a community that successfully engaged with their residents were our Encore properties in Tampa. This image you're seeing is an image of Secretary of HUD, Ben Carson, last year when he spoke at Trio at Encore in Tampa. We were thrilled to welcome him. It was an urban renewal project that developed 4 apartment communities in the area. And Dr. Carson said as he toured the properties, this is a way urban renewal should be done. I can tell you that during lease up and management and during the pandemic, we knew that messaging was so important and we really connected with our residents and engaged them and continue to do so. Next slide, please. So here are some examples of the great service and resident engagement that we used at the Encore development. We were obviously feeding residents during the pandemic. And I will say that these are affordable and some senior properties. It's a mixture there at Encore. So it was important for us to be able to bring meals to the residents and deliver them directly to the door. Ownership, and we worked with local charities to be able to provide that food to the residents. We also celebrated our first responders, many of whom lived at the property, and we wanted to provide everybody with the best possible experience. Next slide, please. So moving forward, what's changed and what are we going to do? Well, we know we're going to continue our omni-channel communication strategy. We're going to leverage our customer relationship platforms. We're having already, and we welcome back our in-person events and using our quarterly marketing playbook. But we are continuing to listen and learn from our residents and understand what they want so that we can deliver the best experience for our residents. I will say that during the pandemic, there's never been a greater time that we needed the National Apartment Association, excuse me, because they certainly led on many issues that kept us informed, and our local and state associations also, because they provided guidance and resources that were invaluable. During this time, we all learned from each other, and I hope as we move out of the pandemic, we'll all remember and keep that spirit of working together, because I think we're all better together. Next slide, please. Our properties inspire us every day with their creativity and passion to serve their residents. We are all so proud of them. We try to serve our residents and create a sense of community during tough times and every day. So in closing, we learned so many new ways to connect with our residents and engage with them. And as we move forward, we recognize we'll now be competing for our residents' time and attention. They're going to go back to work. Their kids are going to be in school. Students are going to be back in class. And so we'll have to compete for their time. And so we know our lessons learned will help us navigate back to the future. So I'd like to acknowledge our great training department and marketing team who helped put this presentation together for me. Gray Lane, Sherry Adams, and Anna Mueller, thank you for what you do. And thank you for having me today. And Leigh, back to you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Bonnie, for that wonderful perspective that we do at JMG and we're proud to do for our residents. So now is the time for questions and answers. So if you could please chat or write in the question and answer box, we'll be happy to help you out. Well, I can start the ball rolling. What do you guys, and any of the presenters, please feel free to join in. What did you do for your teams during this same time period?
One thing I thought was important is to recognize that we've got like an exuberant, enthusiastic, maybe even extroverted sales team. And now the blinds were shut and the doors were locked and they weren't getting what they need to charge their batteries. So I think one of the things we did at the time was to give them, we gave them all iPads and let them go kind of either tour each other, right? So they can kind of tour a unit or just walk around with the iPad and give the dialogue about the community. And it kept them engaged. And what the feedback I got was I could see their pride in that deliverable. I could see how proud they were of the community. But that's really just that moment in time, right? It was just like maybe a Band-Aid at the time. So that's a good question. And I'm kind of looking forward to other people's answers is how do we keep our staff jazzed and motivated when they're not getting what they need?
Good point. Good point. Christina or Bonnie?
Hi, Leigh. One of the things, we certainly celebrated our on-site teams, kept them motivated early on in the pandemic. We felt like we really needed to connect with them. We weren't getting out for site visits to make that connection. So we would host monthly Zoom calls where we were celebrating people's birthdays and work anniversaries and thanking them for what they did and making them understand that we're all pioneering. Last year we were in this pandemic and how much we appreciated them doing what they did. And we certainly celebrated both last year and this year with the appreciation of National Teams Day, where we really made it a big event, had lunch delivered for them. We did an online broadcast from the company, connecting everyone together on a big Zoom call. And we found that's very efficient. And then we also went ahead with our awards program. And we actually gave every property an award for 2020 because we felt like they had gone above and beyond. So those are just some of the ways we've tried to motivate our people and make them know we appreciate them.
Thank you, Bonnie. Christina?
Yeah, just to echo that, I think that the main theme is communication. I think making sure that there's that consistent communication with the teams, even though it is virtual, and having those regular meetings. And we did the same thing, meeting every other week, just to ask questions, see how they're feeling, what challenges they're going through, because they're all in it together, so they can learn from each other, and we can also learn from, their perspective and see how we can help. And I think that was really beneficial. Our executive team did an amazing job of communicating throughout this time, and not always just policies and procedures and what's happening, but those fun things too, and to sit back and take in what's happening. And some of them were kind of personal, somewhat emotional kind of feelings getting out there, but knowing that there's a real person behind there, and that's your executive team, and we're all going through this crazy weird time together, really connected us even further. So again, celebrating those wins and communication, I think, was just the best way we could do it.
That's all very good input. So thank you, Taylor. She actually has posted a question. How do you combat virtual event fatigue? Christina, would you like to take that one?
I think that's a real thing. And I think, with all the, virtual webinars and how much time we spent in front of a computer, it's definitely tough. I think utilizing surveying and really figuring out what the residents want, and not just doing something because you're checking a box, but figuring out what they want and what they're looking for, and trying to come up with something that's going to work for that community. And it might not be virtual. Maybe, we're obviously starting to get back to more in-person events. And so sprinkling the virtual ones in with the in-person, and, utilizing the food trucks and things where people still might feel safe to go out and participate. But I think it is just that surveying the residents and seeing what they're looking for.
That's great. Aaron or Bonnie, any other ideas?
I think that's the key now that you can get back to in-person events is getting them more toward the in-person events. And so that you have a blend of maybe you still do some virtual, but you're doing also in person. And I think for the site teams, it's the same way. We did so many virtual meetings. Now that we're able to get back and, really engage with our site staff, that's important to not have quite so many Zoom meetings and really engage with them and visit with them.
Very good.
I think also it doesn't have to be perfect. Going kind of back to one of my comments, if you have 20 people, right, on Zoom trivia, I know it's, you have to set it up. It's a 30-minute, an hour, 2 hours maybe, right, creating the advertising and pushing this out there. But how much of my day would be eaten on site up by 20 people, right? That's maybe 2 days worth of just, residents rolling in and speaking with me. So we might not always reach the same people, and we might not always reach critical mass. But even these events with 15 or 20 people who are joining in, it might be someone that wouldn't otherwise come to a potluck or wouldn't otherwise come to a sips and strokes. And so I think I would just continue to challenge and honor my teams when they create an imperfect event with low attendance, that those attendees, this might have been the highlight of their week. So just never doubt yourself that the event that you're hosting might not really change someone's life.
I love that.
That's very good. All right, so it looks like we had somebody gave a recommendation. What they did, they organized monthly groups of the on-site staff, 3 to 4 people, to get together virtually and chat casually about something other than work, like they would normally do at a company event or, after dinner or after work at dinner. They had 15 properties, and it was a way to get to know new employees. I think that's awesome. So is there any other ideas or questions? I think James will talk about the slideshow, Valerie. I think it's going to be online next week, but he'll give you more information.
No, I've got one last question for our 3 distinguished panelists here. I was just curious if either of you got any direct feedback from your residents. Do you have any anecdotes to share about how all this wonderful activity might have struck a chord with anybody? What do you think,
Well,
Aaron?
It's
Or Bonnie,
funny. I can
rather.
certainly share that when we were doing all the meal deliveries and we were doing the vaccine clinics for the seniors, the people who would come talk to our site staff with masks on, tears rolling down their face, thanking us for what we were doing. And then I heard from a lot of my on-site staffs that a lot of times it was that personal on the phone connection they made with the resident. If a resident was having trouble paying their rent and we were connecting them with sources and helping them get aid to pay their rent, those were the things that really meant so much. It was great the way we connected with our residents, but it was that personal touch with our residents in time of need that we got the most appreciation from.
Cover yourself, Aaron or Christina. Any direct feedback that struck you?
Yeah, I think our on-site teams definitely get the direct feedback, and sometimes it gets filtered to our way. I just remember one of the times our team sent out an email to our residents and just asking who needed help and who needed supplies. And, I'm sure people didn't want to reach out and felt, maybe a burden, but the teams went out and purchased supplies, and the toilet papers, the toiletries, the things that were hard to get, and making that impact on them was just unbelievable. And so we heard about those stories, and it's just very heartwarming, and those feel good things that our teams are doing and going above and beyond.
Yeah, life is hard. We all need help. And if we can give it, that can change someone's day or week or month. And when we did our virtual cocktail hour, we did a cocktail hour where everyone was toasting off their balconies for healthcare workers. Somebody videoed it, and they were shooting it to our healthcare workers because, of course, they were at work, right? They're in shifts, and we had, tears streaming through the masks. And just your responses is, I just got this in the middle of, at the start of a 12-hour shift, and this is just going to keep me going. And, you can go to our reviews and you'll find that even despite, limited operations, I love the way Bonnie said it, right? It's just, we're here, we're just not open to residents. And And even despite that, we had a lot of communication coming back and forth via the reviews, and recognizing, though it might have not been the same white glove service, it might have been like a hazmat glove service. We were coming through in the end, and people had great feedback for us.
Well, that's awesome. Well, listen, I want to thank our host, Leigh Rogers, and all three of our presenters, Aaron Moss, Christina Rauscher, and Bonnie Smetzer. This was really great. I mean, not only was there a lot of really terrific ideas, but you can hear that the ideas came from the heart. This was, I think, an aptly titled webinar, Showing Love for the Residents. So thank you all, very much appreciated. Now, in terms of more information, you're absolutely welcome to visit our website. We've got a whole operations solution library, including everything you see in the left side there. The entire DE&I resource library, by the way, and our very popular click and lease and click and comply programs. In terms of meetings and events, we have our big Apartmentalize conference coming up very shortly. And in terms of education and careers, we've got a whole series of webinars, including quite a few more like this one, on demand as well as upcoming. And you've got publications, advocacy, and member services, all there designed to support the members. So again, I want to thank everybody for participating. We absolutely value your membership and appreciate your attendance. So to all, thank you and have a great afternoon.